Calling the meeting to order. I apologize. We're improvising. We have a temporary commission chamber and I have a temporary gavel. Okay, so this is the 2-minute warning and then this is the gavel. We're improvising this evening. Welcome, City of West Miami Commission meeting. Today is Wednesday, January 15th, 7:30 p.m. And we're downstairs in our community center because we are going through a bit of renovation upstairs. So I apologize for the inconvenience, but Mr. Q has us set up quite professionally down here. Thank you, Mr. Q. Okay, so for the invocation, Captain.
Let's bow our heads. Lord, we thank you for all the blessings you give us on a daily basis that at times we might take for granted. We ask that you continue to watch over all of us as we embark on yet another great year of public service. Please protect our military servicemen and women during this very trying time in our nation's history, as well as our law enforcement officers and firefighters, that they may return home safely after every shift. Lord, we also ask that you give clarity and guidance to our city leaders and elected officials so that they continue to make the right decisions when it comes to the wellness of the city and its residents. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Captain. And this evening, we have a very special guest with us. We have Chief Ed Hudak from the City of Coral Gables. Chief, if you would do us the honor of leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir. Thank you.
Please join with me and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, next item.
Item 3, roll call. Mayor Rhonda Rodriguez.
Present.
Vice Mayor Luciano Suarez.
Yes.
Commissioner Candida Blanca.
Yes.
Commissioner Juan Blanes.
Present.
Commissioner Eric Diaz-Padrón.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum. For the record, City Manager Yolanda Aguilar, City Attorney Jose Villalobos, City Clerk Annette Gonzalez present.
Thank you. Next item.
Item 4, presentation of minutes for approval for December 18, 2019, regular commission meeting. And Mayor and commission members, I respectfully request to defer this item until the meeting of February 5th, 2020.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item 5, public comments.
Do we have anyone that has signed up to speak this evening?
No, Madam Mayor.
Does anyone here wish to join in the public comments? You can fill out the form later. Anyone else? No? Next item, Madam Clerk.
Item 6, report of the City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a written report, and I'd like to add 2 items to that. I don't know if you wish to switch up the order of the agenda, or if you'd like for us to proceed with that at this time.
Madam Clerk, do we have anything that we should take out of order this evening?
Madam Mayor, we have, everything is like important is, at this meeting. We have a public hearing on 11A. We have a presentation by Resilient 305. We have like many items. I don't know if Madam Manager, do you
Is
have a
there any
suggestion?
reason why?
I have a
You wanna do-
recommendation, if I may,
Sure.
Madam Mayor. Thank you. We have a consent agenda item, and I'm sure that Chief Hudak is here as well to, in case there's any questions on this item.
I believe there's an elected official from Coral Gables
And
coming,
there is an
so,
elected official from the city of Coral
I think he's
Gables.
on his
Vice
way.
Mayor.
He's almost here. So
Okay, so we'll wait until the elected official, Vice
Right.
Mayor
yeah,
Vince
no
Lago.
surprise, but yeah, Vice Mayor Vince Lago.
Okay, so definitely, if you want to wait a few minutes until he arrives.
Yes, Commissioner, we will take that upon his arrival.
Thank you.
Okay? So then, Madam Manager, why don't we just go with your report?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. My report for this meeting includes the following: the Passport Office, as we all can see, the Passport expansion is underway. The contractor, Conbuilt, is working with the city to accomplish the demolition work of the front office restroom, restrooms, which is part of the project. The crews will be working throughout the weekend. We've authorized Mr. Penna to have staff available from his department throughout the weekend, because they'll be working inside as part of the demolition project. We started demolition, but we had citizens that were complaining that they could not be heard or hear the clerks at the counter. it was quite difficult to conduct business with all that hammering in there. And so I discussed it with Mr. Penna, and we both agreed that it's in the best interest of the city to have the crews here working over the weekend. I'll be coming by, as I am sure Mr. Penna as well will be coming by over the long weekend. The Department of Public Works has also secured the front area to avoid any situations involving trip and falls and to protect our senior citizens and redirect them to use the immediate walkway into this community center where we're holding the meeting this evening. The city is making the purchases as approved and part of the project in an effort to expedite the project with little or no delays. We welcome the expansion, and I think it'll address the issue of the first outdated restrooms and provide a more comfortable setting for our residents and those who visit our city, and segregate them into or separate them into a passport area. And we will provide you with updates along the way. The next item in my report is committee reports. I believe that we may have a final nomination this evening for a member to the Recreation Advisory Board. And once we have a full board, we are ready to proceed and assist Commissioner Blanes with preparing the agenda and support paperwork for the meeting. The new members will be sworn at that next meeting, and hopefully we'll go over the projects that have been accomplished, those that are underway, and those that are slated to come up in the future. That being said, I prepared a list of projects that are underway now and in bidding stages. The first one is at the end of the month, and our engineers can correct me if I'm wrong, the state of Florida Phase 1, funded partially by the city of West Miami. As well, the potable water system is ready to go to bid at the end of January 2020, if I'm not mistaken. The replacement of all Cooper Park tables, benches, and trash containers and the concrete work for those projects is also out to bid, Mr. Penna, am I correct? As well, the LED sports lighting for the baseball field at the Recreation Center, that's also in its bidding stages. A steel prefabricated building for storage area to be constructed at the City of West Miami Recreation Center, and the roof at the Pavilion Building, and Mr. Villalobos has reviewed all the bids and specification documents, has authorized us to proceed to the advertisement stage. So it is likely that these items will come before the mayor and city commission during the month of March, April, and early May with recommendations for approval. These projects are either funded by FERDAP, land water conservation grants, and impact fees as allocated and illustrated and approved by the 2019-2020 budget for the corresponding funds. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to respond to those at this time, or I can just finish my report.
Well, I have a comment. The nomination, I had somebody for the Parks and Rec. I pulled out today, so I'm back to zero. So I don't know if it was me who had nomination, but I did have somebody. He's now no longer wanting to serve. So I'll be looking for someone by next meeting, but obviously
Okay.
it's up for grabs.
Would you like for us to carry this item over, defer it to
Yes,
the next
please.
Yes.
city commission meeting?
Please.
Perfect.
So that will be under old business on February 5th.
How many more do we need?
We need one more member.
Just one more.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to defer 10A. Yes, perfect.
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
No.
go ahead.
West Miami Recreation Center, as the mayor knows, tutoring is alive and well. Currently, we are averaging 16 to 18 children whose ages range between the age of 6 through 12, benefiting from tutoring sessions 2 times per week at the rec. We're also making arrangements, this is separate and aside, to possibly bring in an art instructor, and the mayor and I had talked about this for quite some time. John Michael Lopez and I will be meeting with the Embajadores del Artes program. They work very closely with the county, and they're funded through grants, county grants and state grants, to hopefully bring an art program for the children. So Mayor, I'll let you know once that meeting is already confirmed.
Perfect,
We'll check with your schedule as well.
perfect, thank you.
The expense and donation report for the 2019 lighting of the tree ceremony is attached to my report. We spent at $881.71 over and above the donations received. That amount was charged to the special events account in the Recreation Center Fund. And obviously, every year with salary increases and benefit increases and vendor and goods and supplies, we're going to see spikes in these amounts. So we have to be mindful that these events throughout the future years are going to increase in price. The chambers, I am advised by the Director of Public Works that the chambers should be ready by the end of next week, but no later than January 26, 2020. The asbestos removal company has already performed their work, and the new carpet will be installed sometime next week. And I'm sure we'll be doing some painting or some touch-up. So your next meeting should be back in the chambers. Two other items, as of 6:30 this evening, I spoke to Eddie Gonzalez, our legislative consultant, and Jonathan Kilman as well, who are in Tallahassee. They have both advised that meeting invitations have been sent out to our some key lawmakers in Tallahassee, and we should have confirmations early next week. They have reached out to state representatives and senators. Madam Mayor, you know that you and I will be in Tallahassee, leaving the early evening on the 28th, returning on the late flight on the 29th. So hopefully we will be able to meet with the evening when we get there, during the evening, with hopefully one of our state representatives, and then the following day have back-to-back meetings before we head back to the airport.
Okay.
So, and the next item in my report, as a follow-up to the Southwest 57th Avenue curbing with Florida Department of Transportation, they have asked us to reserve March 3rd and March 5th at the Rebecca Sosa Multipurpose Facility Building. And we bring this for your approval for a public meeting and a public hearing from 6 to 8 p.m. so that they can proffer the project to the community at large. So if that's okay with you, we can grant them the
It
space
was 2 days?
and proceeds March 3rd and March 5th.
At 6
So
p.m.
they're having 2 meetings.
They need to have 2 meetings to comply with their
Okay.
statutory
Got it.
and policy requirements, yes. That falls on a
Tuesday and Thursday.
Tuesday and Thursday, correct?
I don't have any concerns with that. Does anyone have any concerns with those 2 dates?
No.
No?
No.
Madam Manager?
So we can go ahead and confirm that.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm sure we'll be notifying Publix and the area business people and residents so that they know that the meeting is taking place.
Okay.
Okay? That concludes my report. If anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy to respond.
Any questions for the manager? Madam Clerk, next item.
We have, as part of the consent agenda, an item, a resolution, and it is my belief that Vice Mayor Lago has arrived.
Welcome, Vice
And,
Mayor.
if you
Welcome.
want to pull it from the
Yes,
agenda,
we
please
will-
allow me to read the resolution.
Yes, please.
Item 12A, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of West Miami, Florida, approving an interlocal and mutual aid agreement between the City of West Miami and the City of Coral Gables, providing for the creation of a joint enforcement zone, providing for law enforcement services, and creating a multi-agency anti-prostitution and human trafficking task force. Vice Mayor.
Vice Mayor Lago, welcome.
First off, I'd like to say thank you for having me, Madam Mayor. Vice Mayor Suarez, it's always a pleasure to see you.
Nice to see you here, it's an
My
honor.
fellow commissioners, Madam City Manager, Madam City Clerk,
Welcome.
Welcome.
Mr. City Attorney, it's always a privilege. As the manager so eloquently stated, I am the Vice Mayor. I have the privilege of serving the residents of the City of Coral Gables, and I brought along my esteemed colleague, our Chief of Police, Mr. Ed Hudak, who's been serving the city for 25 years now.
Listen,
Time flies.
So more importantly, I have a really simple prepared statement. I just wanted to
Please.
read off it because I don't want to miss any points. So I want to first off thank you for having me here to discuss the efforts the City of Coral Gables has taken to help combat ongoing situations that have been happening in our own very backyard, which is the issue of prostitution, human trafficking, and crime. I've also invited our police chief, like I mentioned, to discuss these initiatives in a little bit more detail. I wanted to discuss a memo that he presented, which was circulated in his public record to the commission, along with our colleagues at the City of Coral Gables, and he'll give you a little bit more details and data, which I think you should have, that talks about the resolution that we're entering and the effects of that resolution. So every year, millions of vulnerable children and women are trafficked and exploited for sex around the world. The U.S. Department of State estimates that as many as 600 to 800,000 individuals are trafficked across our nation's borders each year, with Florida receiving a high percentage of these victims. According to the State Attorney's Office, the state of Florida ranks third in the nation for human trafficking. It is no secret that hotels and motels that allow for the hourly rental of rooms are frequent by individuals who engage in prostitution and human trafficking, sex trafficking, as well as other illegal activities. Ever since I was first elected into office 6 years ago, I've had the opportunity to participate in nearly a dozen undercover stings with several law enforcement entities such as the City of Coral Gables Police Department, the City of Miami Police Department, and State Attorney Kathy Fernandez-Rondo's office. Before I go any further, I also want to commend the manager's son, who was recently promoted. I know that he works that corridor and he keeps us safe at night, so I wanted to
Thank
make
you.
sure I mentioned that.
Thank you, sir.
No, please, it's a privilege. Thank you. During these undercover investigations, the things that I've seen cannot be unseen. I witnessed women of all ages under the control of their pimps, abused, manipulated, and ultimately becoming victims of exploitation. I've gone over 10 stings, undercover stings, overnight. As the father of 2 young girls, I can tell you from what I've seen firsthand, it's moving and it makes you want to hold people accountable. Victims of sex trafficking are often exposed to serious health risks, including sexually transmitted diseases, drugs, and alcohol addictions, a series of health concerns, and psychological trauma. Moved by this firsthand experience, I decided that something had to be done. Coincidentally, during that time, I also received dozens of phone calls from dozens of residents who would tell me how their children would be playing in their front yards and they would witness prostitution and drug exchanges happening in plain sight on 8th Street. As a result, on December 6, 2016, I sponsored an ordinance which was enacted by the Coral Gables Commission that prohibits the hourly hotel/motel rentals which are located along the city's 8th Street corridor. This ordinance allows for the imposition of a fine against or arrest of an individual who takes payment for an hourly rental. The ordinance was a positive move for the City of Coral Gables and helped substantially reduce illegal activities surrounding our city's borders while enhancing the overall safety of our neighborhoods and ensuring the safety of our children. Our police chief will go into more detail about this. Moreover, our city enacted a memorandum of understanding, and this is what we're doing today, which is an agreement between both the City of Miami and the City of Coral Gables. This agreement allows the creation of a joint enforcement zone, which is mutually beneficial to both municipalities as it helps enhance policies, strategies by reducing with the goal of eliminating illegal activities taking place within the areas of both cities. Someone said, we only have 2 choices: do nothing or do something. Today I am proud to see that our neighbors in West Miami are considering to adopt the resolution you have before you and work together to make our communities safer. Collaboration is the key to our success as we are one community. So I wanted to commend my fellow colleague, Commissioner Eric Diaz-Padrón, who sat with me and we went over a few different opportunities to collaborate together, because if we live in silos, we will fail in silos. I think that we have to make sure that we cross-pollinate, that we work as cities, and we take the resources that we have at our disposal, like the City of Miami and the City of Coral Gables did, to get people that maybe are not in our city, but are committing crimes adjacent to our city, which have serious ramifications to the city. So if we work together, I think that our future is bright. So I want to introduce you to our police chief, who's going to give you a little bit more information in regards to this memorandum. I have a copy of it for your record. Just give you some information. Thank you for having me.
thank you, Vice Mayor.
I best clap for my vice mayor, or I'm in trouble. Everybody else will have to. Good evening, everybody, and it is my pleasure, but more importantly, my honor to be here in front of you. From a historical perspective of the 30-plus years, I think, prostitution, sex crimes have changed over the years in my tenure. I tell both my elected officials and the officers, technology is something that changes every minute, every day. Back when your entire police command staff and myself 30 years ago, and I'll use this as an example of how we have to change. We have had our relationships going back 30 years, and they all started in your city. So on the midnight shift, we would all see each other at the Latin American cafeteria in West Miami. So it would be the City of Miami Police Department, the West Miami Police Department, and the Coral Gables Police Department, all in one city block, which is indicative of what that is. In that intersection, you have 3 jurisdictions. That happens quite a lot to us in Coral Gables, with the 5 jurisdictions that assigned to us. So we always knew what was going on at the time because we would talk and do that. Hence, now we have the technology. What the technology does is it actually allows us to not see so much the people that are walking the street, or as they've been referred to, the street walkers. Now there's a lot of contact done on websites on where to meet and what to do. So we have had to change our approach. Part of the legislation that the Vice Mayor spoke about was something that he saw that I knew, I think that your command staff also knew, that if you're driving down Southwest 8th Street and the prostitutes are on the Gables side and they see a Gables car, they would walk to the north side of 8th Street, knowing full well after you've been arrested several times, we're not going to do anything. We've changed that. And I believe that this resolution would do the same thing along our 8th Street or our 5-7 Avenue corridor as well. It just broadens it a little bit instead of being emergencies, but it also helps us. Our partnership with your police department and your city is as long as the relationship has been between the 2 cities. What this legislation does is it kind of helps us focus on what is a national epidemic. We are all going to be on the front page of the sports world in the next 2 weeks with the NFL coming to town. Our resources are going to be spread, but the focus, not just of the NFL, but of all law enforcement, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the State Attorney's Office, the state and local police departments, is to attack human trafficking. I was in Atlanta last year for the Super Bowl. It is, unless you know what you're looking for, hiding in plain sight. And it was immense going on there. The days of this being a victimless crime, so to speak, have changed dramatically. And we as law enforcement and elected people as well have got to be able to change with that, because now we are no longer looking at these women, these children on the streets as just being the victimless crime person that we arrest. So we continue to work to find out those people that are making billions of dollars off that. What helps us do that is our resources are always available to you and your police department. You know that. This kind of focused us on what we would see on your side of the street, where we may not, on our current mutual aid agreement, would not be able to take action on. Now, if we see somebody on your side of the street, we will actually engage them proactively. And the same thing. Well, I mean, and again, I think, what your command staff will tell you is that once you go on the other side of Red Road, nothing makes sense as far as street markers. And even after 30 years, I still use the map to get around. So, but to that end, we will work side by side. We have worked side by side. This has been very productive for us with the city of Miami. We work constant details, again, because we don't see them walking. So in order to go after the traffickers, we will bring them in, which I understand some people aren't really crazy about. But if we can save collectively someone from a trafficking circle of violence, I think it's well worth that. And in the meantime, there's always going to be a demand, although a lot of these people that we are finding are not there because they want to be. And that is the bigger true, not just a crime, but a sin and a moral issue that we have to deal with as the law enforcement capacity. So I would hope you would support this. I can give you the numbers of what we've done. You know, again, some people think we bring us into our city. I would say if we can save 1 or 2 people, and we have had people, I have got detectives that are actively working in human trafficking on a regular basis. But I will tell you, for the Super Bowl, we will have 7 detectives assigned to the task force just for the 2 weeks of the Super Bowl to assist. That's assisting Miami Beach, Miami-Dade County, the city of Miami, just to handle this problem. So for as much as we may not think it is, you've seen the advertisements of what's coming on. It is an epidemic. It's a very quiet epidemic, but you know, the victims are truly looked at for the first time in my 30-plus year career. We're looking at them as victims, not necessarily as people just trying to make a buck. So, and the quality of life will definitely be impacted by that. So.
Do you have a copy of this memo? Did we send it out to you or no?
No,
It
I
just
don't.
gives you a detailed month-by-month breakdown of the arrests and how we're working with the city of Miami. And it just goes to show you that we've had close to about 100 arrests in 2019. So, and like I mentioned to you before, if you haven't done it, I know that a lot of you have, because I know a lot of you are very active serving your constituency and the business community. You should sit down with your law enforcement and you should take a ride with them at night. And you should see and put yourself in their shoes so you can witness it firsthand, 12, 1, 2 in the morning. So you can see what's really going on in the city. Not only in West Miami, but in the city of Miami, unincorporated Dade, city of Coral Gables. I've seen people who are in the city of Miami pick up a prostitute and bring them into the city of Coral Gables looking for a location. And trust me, they're not playing chess. They're looking for obviously a quiet destination. And those are what's occurring there is crime. You know, it's victimless crime. It's taking advantage of somebody, and that's happening in our own backyard.
To echo the Vice Mayor, if anyone gets a chance to go to the Human Trafficking Center, which I know you've
Yeah.
probably been, it's moving. I've been not exposed, but I've gotten a chance to learn about this over the last year, more in depth, things that I didn't understand or know at the time, and it's really something. I haven't been in the sting operations, but it's really something to forget once you've seen what happens to these people. I want to thank the Vice Mayor for his leadership on this. I can't think of anybody more active, at least in an elected role, more active on this issue. Our police, our chief, our deputy chief, our captain for working on this, and Chief Hudak, thank you. I urge my colleagues to support this. We recently passed a very similar resolution with the city of Miami that was modeled after the resolution that the Vice Mayor did with the city of Miami about a year ago, maybe more. So this is a follow-up to that, and to round this out on our borders, and hopefully to continue going after this epidemic.
Thank you. And I just wanted to leave with one last statement that I forgot to mention to you. It's not only about prostitution, because when you stop that person, and I've seen it with my own eyes, when you stop that person, you pull them out of the car, and they have an illegal handgun, they have drugs in the car, and that's in your city, and that's being brought into your city, the city that we're blessed to all represent. It brings some chills and makes you really recognize that we need to take action on certain things, and everything that we can do proactively to work with your exceptional police staff, your police chief, the entire team. We're here. We got to work together. We got to share information. If we're not able to cover a certain portion of 57th Avenue, you got to cover for us. And if we happen to be driving in that area, we've got to cover for you. So I look forward to hopefully enacting this legislation, this resolution, and I'm always here at your service. Thank you, and God bless all of you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming. According with our police department, the previous agreement that we have with you and City of Miami has been very successful. And now, knowing about this that you is presenting to us, this will complement the previous agreement. Because all these things are happening now. You just watch the TV, read the paper. It's terrible. So I agree that these things are going to help, and are really helping.
Thank you.
I agree with that.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. I want to also thank Commissioner Diaz-Padrón for bringing this to us, Commissioner. And Madam Clerk, remind me, is this the one that I am co-sponsoring? with the commissioner? I
Beautiful.
just wanted to be sure. Okay,
Great, thank you for that, I appreciate it.
thank you.
Mayor.
My
Thank
my
you.
pleasure.
Thank you, I'm gonna get that memo to you so you can see the
Please.
actual month-by-month arrest records and exactly what's going on with the city of Miami.
Please, and then Madam Clerk, you can send that out to, or
I'll
Madam
put it on,
Manager.
I'll put it
course.
with the clerk, I'll give it to the clerk now and put it on the record.
Yes.
Mr. Vice Mayor,
I-
I'd like to also commend you for your ordinance, and I'd like to give you my card so you can email me the ordinance that you just passed.
I believe the chief would like to say a few
Our-
words.
Thank you.
Mayor, our best witness we have is our chief of police.
Yes, and he's,
He will tell you.
Just briefly, I want to echo what both the Vice Mayor and Chief Hudak says. This type of crime, all crimes, but this one in particular, does not have boundaries. They don't know where one city or one county ends and the other one starts. And this resolution will go far in trying to save those victims because that's truly what they are. And again, I applaud their efforts and urge the commission to approve it.
thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, we have 2 items under the consent agenda.
Yes, since this item was pulled from the consent
Yeah, it was
agenda
pulled.
for
I
presentation.
motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Diaz-Padrón,
I second.
second by Commissioner Blanca. Are all in favor?
All in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
5-0, item passes.
Let's go ahead
Thank
and
you.
just take the second one this time as well, Madam Clerk.
Okay, so that's part of the consent agenda.
Consent
We'd like
agenda.
to vote for
Is
the
any-
consent agenda right
Is there
now.
anyone
are
opposed
we doing that?
on the consent agenda items at this time? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Consent agenda items passed, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, back to the order of the agenda.
Okay, would you like to proceed with the regular order of the agenda, Madam Mayor, or would you like to take any item out of order? Do you recommend to take any item out of order? We
Madam
have-
Manager has something.
Thank you. We did advertise for a public hearing at 7:30 this evening, and because of that time frame, I think if you could take that up at this time, it would be consistent with the advertisement.
Okay. That,
So we're taking item 11A. This item is continued from the November 20th, 2019 meeting. This is a public hearing, property address 143133 and 144143 Southwest 66th Avenue, West Miami, Florida 32144. This is a special use permit for planned development 2019-004, applicant Elite Home 14XX LLC. Applicant requests a special use permit for planned development of 253-foot lot previously submitted for a tentative plat for the property at 14XX Southwest 66th Avenue, West Miami, Florida 33144. The property is zoned for R2 duplex, and the applicant is requesting to build two-story duplex homes divided by a party wall on each lot parcel. The developer will construct 2 new two-family, two-story duplex. Parcel is zoned for R2 duplex, zoning ordinance 282, section 2B.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. This item was previously before the Planning and Zoning Board, where they went ahead and they approved it with a couple of conditions. One was the elimination of the door in the inlet quarter and changing that to a window. And the other was the door, and the other one was the driveway, allowing for 2 cars to park on the lot. They voted unanimously to pass, and it's here before you tonight. Property owners are here if you have any questions for them.
Madam,
Well,
Madam Clerk, I shall open the public hearing at this time.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Let's open the public hearing. Anyone here to speak on the public hearing? Close the public hearing. Any questions from the table on this item?
Mayor, I just reading the recommendation from the zoning and planning board, recommended the approval, and I think everything is in order, and I recommend approval. I make a motion to approve this.
Do we want to hear from the applicant? Do we? No?
Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean,
Sir,
please.
Good evening. Carlos Gancedo, Elite Homes, 14XX. The project is, thank you for the approval of the project, and we think it's going to improve the area very well. We also including some of the repairs and an improvement on the, between 14th and 15th Street along with this project. We also want to bring some trees in the neighborhood to help with the area and some of the lighting as well.
And I noticed the planning and zoning approved with two conditions, correct?
Yes.
The parking and the door.
And the door on the side.
Okay. Anything else from the table for the applicant or questions for staff?
Oh, I think we already studied this last meeting, and I make the motion to approve this.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second.
Madam Mayor, we have to read the resolution. That's item
Please.
11B. Item 11B is a resolution of the City of West Miami, Florida, granting a special use permit for planned development for the Elite Homes 14XX Corporation for the property at 143133 and 144143 for Southwest 66th Avenue, also known as folio number 15-4012-041-0161, allowing for the construction of two-story duplex for each, consisting of 4-bedroom, 5-bath on the lots having 6,221 square feet, requiring certain improvements to the right-of-way on Southwest 66th Avenue between Southwest 14th Street and Southwest 15th Street in the city of West Miami, and in lieu of thereof, requiring certain improvements and dedications and other terms and conditions. Motion by by Vice Mayor Suarez, second by Commissioner Blanca. On the vote, Commissioner Blanes, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Diaz-Padrón?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanca?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Suarez?
Yes.
Mayor Rodriguez?
Yes.
5-0, item passes.
Thank you.
Thank you for the good job you did with these plans and everything. It's very good, very nice, very nice.
Madam Clerk, let's go back
Yes.
to the order of the agenda, please.
Back to the order of the agenda, item 7 is the report of the city attorney.
I have two items of report. I think you have been advised before any mortgages that have been filed prior to any court enforcement of liens have superior indignity to the court enforcement, and upon the foreclosure, the mortgage shall prevail and the lien shall be extinguished. And thus, this just past week passed through one of the judges of Circuit Court 11 Judicial Circuit. However, whenever you have that issue, there's always lagging other monies that are owed to the city of West Miami, such as water and sewer. I'm sorry, water and garbage. I was able to prevail, and I'm handling now several checks in the amount of $2,000 that I was able to collect from this particular case.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
Now, the other issue is this. Pursuant to Florida statute 286.011(a), I am hereby requesting and mandated a meeting, a closed meeting for the resolution or discussion of the appeal in writ of certiorari by Banyan Health System. As you all know, Banyan Health System went out to the zoning board requesting a clinic to be not fabricated, but actually installed in the city of West Miami. The code enforcement, the planning and zoning board denied it. It came out to the commission, and the commission unanimously denied the application as well. And the applicant from Banyan Health System filed notice that they will go out before the circuit court and request an writ of certiorari to overturn whatever you have decided. So pursuant to the statute and case law, specifically School Board versus Publishing Company, I am hereby requesting an executive session for us to discuss strategy and or possible resolution of this issue at a time convenient for you. They have to be advertised. We have to give regular notice. And the reason that we need for this to be expeditiously is that the court allowed the applicant, the opponent, to 30 days in which to file the writ of certiorari, and therefore thereafter we have only 20 days. So we need to discuss the issues and an appointment of a counsel to represent the city in the appeal. So I am hereby requesting officially that the commission entertains the scheduling of an executive session within a time limitation that you all will prescribe. Now, all we have to do is pursuant to statute and case law is to give a reasonable notice. Reasonable notice will be in the form of an advertised agenda on a special meeting requested by me, whereby only the commission, the manager, myself, and two other lawyers will be present at the time. So you have to approve it, and you have to give me a date that is all convenient for you.
Madam Clerk, we're going to take, that is an agenda item?
That's an
Yes.
agenda
So we're going to
item.
take 11G at this time to comply with the attorney's request.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Are there any questions for the attorney on this? Madam Manager, did you have something?
I wanted to inquire or ask the city attorney if February 5th would be too late in the game for us to have the executive session. The reason is we're scheduled to meet for a city commission meeting on Wednesday, February 5th, and we could perhaps do an earlier special executive session on the same date that you've already calendared for your commission meeting.
My answer would be no, because as I said, the report afforded the applicant 30 days, and I'm afraid that 30 days will be over and lapsing very soon, and then we have 20 days. Today's the 15th, so we would have to wait 15 more days in January, and then 5 more days in February, 20 days, and this will give you very little time in which to prepare our response, if the applicant files his writ of certiorari as soon as I anticipate.
Mr. Attorney, when would you like, what is an appropriate date for you in that case?
It would be, I understand that the clerk needs about 2 days to advertise, and reasonable notice will be between 5 and 10 days. So today's the 15th, I should say perhaps 25th, 26th.
25th is
That's
Saturday.
a Saturday and
Saturday and Sunday.
So how about
Monday,
Monday.
the 27th.
27?
February 27,
January 27? January 27?
27,
Is everyone in agreement with January 27?
At what
At what time, Mr. Attorney?
We had recommended to the city manager to have it in the afternoon. However, I'd like to have some parameters and the ability for us to have it either, let's say, early in the morning, let's say 11 o'clock or so, or at 7 o'clock. Usually, I recommend the city commission to have all meetings at the same time that normally you use in order that people can understand and know. We would have to, as I say, going to the advertising, we have to open the session, and we have to close it for the executive session. And that meeting will be recorded by a court reporter, shall transcribe the proceedings, and to file it with the clerk, and to be open only after the case has been completed.
So your preference of time is?
I would like for the commission to consider giving me latitude and having it, let's say, between 10 and 11 or between 6 and 7 in the afternoon on the same day.
Any preference from the
I
table?
would take no longer than tomorrow or the day after.
Is this
But-
11
for Monday?
o'clock? I suggest 11 o'clock.
On Monday?
Monday the 27th?
Monday the 27th.
11 o'clock would be better for me.
I have no problems with 11
It will be
myself.
the determining factor will be accessibility of the other two lawyers that are coming over.
Okay, so from the table, are we all in agreement? January 27, 11 a.m., pending the availability of the attorneys. Commissioner Blanes?
Yes.
Okay,
All
on the
right.
table.
Madam
January
Mayor,
2711, yes, ma'am?
if I could ask the city attorney to try to get a time certain tomorrow, because if we have to prepare the ad has to be in tomorrow before a certain time for it to publish on Friday, correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes, correct.
Okay, excellent.
So by tomorrow, we will have a confirmation and a calendar
Yes.
for this?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Attorney, do you have anything else under your report? Next item?
Item 9, committee reports. Report of the mayor.
We have city engineer first? Nothing?
You're right, Madam Mayor. Item 8, report of the city engineer.
I know you're on the agenda, but do you have
I
anything to
know.
report?
I assumed.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, we have 3 ongoing projects. As you all know, we have the passport expansion, the water main Phase 1 project, which Madam Manager already kind of went over. If you have any questions on those projects, I can field that. And then we also have the traffic calming study, which we have an item on the agenda. We'll address it at that time. Any questions on the other 2 projects?
Any questions?
Yes, I have a question.
It's not on
Not on
that,
this
because
one.
that's an agenda item. So anything else besides the traffic calmers, because that's on the
On the
agenda.
water project or on the passport office expansion?
It is traffic study here in the agenda, right?
I have a
Right, no,
question.
but this is
Yes.
during his report. We're going to talk about that then.
The what timeline are we on still for the water bids? The water
Yeah, we
project
expect
bids?
to be done with the plans ready to go out to bid by the end of the month. So we should advertise the project early February, have bids by the end of the month, and hopefully start construction April timeframe.
So we've stayed pretty much on track with our original projected timeline. Thank you for that.
Madam
Yes.
Mayor, I just received, and this is important and pretty much germane to the report by the city engineer. I just received a text message from Jonathan Kilman, our legislative team at Converge, and it says your appropriation item passed unanimously in the first committee in the House of Representatives.
Wow.
Excellent.
So
Great news.
yes,
Great
and
news.
the bill for the water project was filed by Representative Brian Avila.
Yes, and I'd like to publicly thank Representative Avila for presenting that for us. That is great news.
Yes.
Perfect timing to
Good
announce
stuff.
it.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, I just got that text.
Perfect
So-
timing. Fantastic news.
I knew it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's it.
Then we'll see you in a few minutes back up here.
Madam Mayor, if I may,
Serendipity.
for abundance of caution, going back to the executive session, I'd like to disclose that the attorneys that we have expected to be here are former Chief Judge Gerald Cogan and Attorney Lorraine Vasquez.
Those
That's
are the-
consistent with the statute.
Wonderful. Those are the two you're going to check with us tomorrow. Okay.
Also, if I may go back to the issue of the date selected for the executive session, it has just come to my attention that there's a code enforcement board meeting on the 27th at 7:30 in the evening. So we should try to hold the executive session at 11 o'clock in the morning.
I will try, but the thing is that this
Availability.
This executive session supersedes any need on any other issue, because if we fail the parameters issued by the court of the 20 days, we will be in big trouble.
Okay, so what will we do
Understood.
then if it has to be in the
Morning,
evening?
But the problem is that we need to, we have to, this item supersedes any court enforcement.
Okay, so worst case scenario, if it has to be in the evening, what do we do with code enforcement, Mr. Penna? Just reschedule it? Okay. So there's no problem then. But we will try for 11, otherwise we go in the evening and
Right.
reschedule code enforcement.
And again, the code enforcement dockets are prepared and the residents are advised of their notice to appear. So there's a little bit of administrative work that needs to be done to either cancel that meeting or move forward with that meeting. So we'll be
We'll
working
know
closely.
by tomorrow.
Yes.
Well, as early as tomorrow, so
Mhm.
that should give us ample time to make whatever changes are
Or
necessary.
A little bit later, the court enforcement, instead of 7:30, we could put it a little bit later.
Or perhaps we could do our executive session a little
Earlier.
earlier in the evening so as not to affect, okay.
We'll work
We can work with that. Wonderful. Okay, next item. Anything else for the questions for the attorney? Okay, or the engineer. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Yes, 9, committee reports, report of the mayor.
I only have one little small report. We should have all by now received invite for the Celeste 22 ribbon cutting, and I would like to see if we get a recognition to present to them that evening in celebration of their grand opening. Anyone opposed to a recognition for Celeste 22 ribbon cutting?
No, I think it's a welcome thing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next item, Madam Clerk?
Next item would be item 11C, and this is a presentation by Resilient 305 about regional resilience strategy, and we have Karina Castillo, Resilience Coordinator and Community Engagement.
Karina, thank you for your patience. I know we had to reschedule this presentation several times, so thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here this evening.
No, thank you for welcoming me. Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for welcoming me to West Miami. I'm here on behalf of Resilient 305. My name is Karina Castillo. I work in the Office of Resilience at Miami-Dade County. Our office has been in existence under the name of Office of Resilience since 2015. One of my primary responsibilities in the Office of Resilience is to work with our municipalities and to work with our universities more collaboratively. So I'm here to present to you about Resilient 305. Apologies. And again, I'd also like to recognize that Coral Gables is also very supportive of the Resilient 305, so must acknowledge the Vice Mayor Lago, and especially for his leadership on the issue of climate and sustainability and all the things that he's doing there. So wanted to take that opportunity, Vice Mayor Lago. So I don't know how I can, do you need me to?
He'll assist
if you don't mind,
you.
thank you so much. So Resilient 305, when we were accepted, I'm going to talk in the next slide about how we became Resilient 305, but we adopted this definition of urban resilience, and it's really about addressing the shocks and stresses in our community. So shock is something that happens immediate, like the word says, something like the FIU bridge collapse or the Zika virus that came and knocked on our door and affected our community. And a long-term, and then a stress is something that's chronic. So the traffic, affordable housing, not having an affordable wage, things such as that nature. And also sea level rise. So we consider what happens in the coastal municipalities of when you see water in the street during the fall and the early spring. That's king tide flooding, that's a shock because it happens all of a sudden. But the long-term trend of the sea level rising is a stress. And so this is the broad definition that's been adopted by the Rockefeller Foundation. Again, we've adopted it in the county and the cities and various other cities. And again, this network that we're a part of, if you can go to the next slide, was an initiative created by the Rockefeller Foundation under the 100 Resilient Cities program. And this program was a coalition of 100 cities from across the world working to produce a resilient strategy. And I brought a copy. There's also one for the record, and it's also available online. And I'd be happy to mail some or come by and drop some off if you need some additional copies. So Resilient 305, we formed, so the two cities, the city of Miami Beach and the city of Miami, each applied to be accepted into the program and did not make it. And then somebody approached us and said, how about you bring a coalition of the county and the two cities? And so we were accepted as Greater Miami and the Beaches, Resilient 305, and we were the only county that was in this program. And again, it's in collaboration with the Rockefeller Foundation, and we could not have done it without our partners at the Miami Foundation, who really provided support throughout the whole thing, and now in implementation of the strategy are continuing to provide support. And so on this timeline, like I said, we were accepted in the fall of 2016. It took 3 years to write the strategy because it's 3 local governments and it's the three-headed monster. Again, we can live and die by our silos, but we had to work together. We had various work groups, listening sessions. I wasn't a part of it when it first started, but the team came around and tried to meet with the mayors of all 34 municipalities in the county to listen to really what are the what are the most immediate shocks and the long-term stresses that you see unique in your own boundaries. And then on May 30th of 2019, wow, we had a big event to release the Resilient 305 strategy. And now we are in the implementation phase, which is the hard part. Besides getting everybody to agree to certain things, we're in implementation. So if you go to the next slide, again, shocks are things like the Zika, and then coastal erosion or things of that nature. And the next slide shows the stresses, which we know is the king tide flooding, traffic, and things like that. If you go to the next slide, please. So the Resilient 305 strategy is divided into 3 goal areas: places, people, and pathways. We started with places because that's what we all identify for. That's why we're having the Super Bowl for the 11th time in Miami. People love to come here. So places really talks about protecting our natural beauty of South Florida. It talks about how do we address sea level rise? How do we address things like mobility? How do we create places where people can come together at mobility hubs to talk, to share resources, to share information? How can we look at the way that we power our buildings a little bit better? How can we increase the use of renewable energy? And then we recognize that we can't have resilient places without resilient people. And so people really addresses a lot of the things that make up our community. It's talking about becoming municipalities and a county that's more age-friendly, working with the United Way under their age-friendly initiative. It's talking about helping people better prepare for disasters by training them with emergency management, the CERT certification, so the community emergency response teams. And it's also about creating living wages and making sure that people and the young people have jobs and stay here and want to live here so that we don't have brain drain. And then we close out with pathways, and that's really about us connecting better, about us becoming a resilient 35 and the 305. The 34 municipalities in the county working together to share resources, to share knowledge, and to share best practices. And again, I think it was stressed earlier. You can be in a municipality and not know that you cross the street and you're in the other municipality or just 1 block over. And so we really looked at it and said there's no jurisdictional boundaries to a lot of these issues, and unless we tackle it in a cohesive county-wide way, then while we can do one thing, it's not, unless everybody else is doing it, it's not going to really affect the resilience of our community. And so the next slide. How can West Miami participate and be a part of Resilient 305? And so if you go to the next slide, there's a list of suggested, so in the strategy and those different goal areas, there's a total of 59 different action items. And these are just some suggestions that were pulled out, but by no means is this the final list. We want you to look through it, through the strategy, identify things that are important, that you've heard from your constituents, that have plagued your city or upcoming things, and say, hey, we want to work with you on that. And then we also have, if you go to the next slide, that's just the list of 59 action items. One more, please. Thank you. And so the next steps in terms of how West Miami can participate is to, 1, look through the strategy. It's very pretty. It's very colorful, much like our community. To look at it, identify what action items are of interest, or if there's something that you don't see there, please let us know. We're asking that the commission and that the mayor sign on to what we're calling the Resilience Accord. And that's just a pledge that your community will work with all the different municipalities and with the county and with Greater Miami and the beaches to implement these actions. And that just means that you're self-identifying. And it's no financial commitment, it's not a membership. We're just working together. And I think a big part of that is the sharing of the resources. So the next 2 items, 3 and 4 here, are a little piece of it. We have things like a communications guide that we had a lunch and learn. We invited public information officers from the different municipalities to come and listen to some of the lessons learned from Miami Beach, and we had a guide. We officially launched it there, and that was one of the action items. So another action item that I'm really excited about is taking place next month, on February 18th, and it's Send Your Boss to Boot Camp. And it's targeted mayors and council members and vice mayors and village managers to come. We're gonna have it at Port Miami, Terminal E. It's gonna be a half-day session. We're lucky enough to have people fly in from the Rockefeller Foundation to really talk about what resilience is. We're gonna have a discussion on our own Resilient 305 strategy, and it's graciously being hosted by the county, but also with the support of the Miami Foundation. And then the last one, I think, is what I just said, is to, we're over the next year and beyond, we're going to continuously try and be engaging everyone, whether it's your planning staff or your city managers or the mayor or your council members, to come to these lunch and learns and to just share resources and information and to, just come and engage as much as you can. And then from the county's perspective, we're here to help. A lot of times we get called out for having a lot of resources and not sharing. But I want to know that in terms of the Office of Resilience, we want to share. We're lucky to have a lot of technical expertise in this area, and we want to share that. And we understand that it's collective we in Miami-Dade County and not just individual we. So thank you so much. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and thank you for having me.
Karina, I actually already have a save the date for that February 18, so I look forward to getting more information on that.
Yeah, and please do forward that information on to the rest
Perfect.
of the commission. And
Thank
then
you.
a final invitation and agenda will be coming
Perfect.
probably by Tuesday of next week.
Wonderful. Are there any questions for Karina?
No, she did a wonderful presentation.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for the information that you've left with us. And like I said, I will see you on that date, if not sooner.
Great. Thank you, Mayor
Any
Rodriguez.
questions from staff? Yes.
Yes, ma'am. If I may ask Karina a question, Madam Mayor. Does Resiliency 305, your department, have any grants available for hardening of structures or mitigation projects?
So we do not directly have funds, but we do have information on how to find funds. So particularly,
I'll be calling you.
Yeah, particularly we right now there's one from the state under it's called the CDBG, so Community Development Block Grant, and that's coming from this. Well, it's being distributed through the state, but it was congressionally appropriated. And there was two branches of funds. There's about, I think, $730 million that's coming down from, and so there's a public plan that's out for public comment right now. And so it's up for everyone to provide comment on how those $730 million should be spent.
Would you send that to us, please?
Yes, I can. So things like that, we're happy to share.
We welcome any information on being able to apply for a grant.
Yeah.
So you'll work with Karina on that then, Madam
Yes.
Manager? Perfect.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
anything else for
Thank you.
Karina? Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Next item, Madam
Yes,
Clerk?
item 11D. This is a draft report on the city's traffic study submitted by T-Boy Lean International, Frank Alonso, and a selection of public involvement meeting date.
Good evening once again.
Welcome back, Mr. Alonso.
Thank you. So in your package, you should have a summary of the major findings of our study that we've concluded, as well as a host of exhibits that kind of demonstrate the types of studies that were implemented and generally the findings. So that should be in your package so you can kind of follow along or look through it, and if you have any questions. The study itself had two major focuses. The first was to kind of look at the existing system that we have now, which is the fully implemented traffic plan from the early 2000s. So we looked at the existing condition, compared that to the original study done in the early 2000s to see if all the work that has been done was truly effective. The second part of the study is looking at the current situation, but looking at where we have shortfalls, where we have holes in the system that we can move forward and correct. So that was generally the two steps that we looked at. comparing back to the 2000s to see how effective our measures have been, and then looking forward as to what next steps we need to take to make the system even better. So just to kind of go over a little bit of, I blew up a couple of the figures that are in your report that I think are most pertinent and kind of really tell the tale quite clearly. So I'll just kind of go through that real quick, and then just open the floor to any questions. So let me see if I can get the board. So as we did the study, we looked at a few factors. We did a city-wide collection of speed data. So we laid out the speed tubes all throughout various areas of the city. We picked locations based upon feedback that we had in the first public hearing, as well as feedback from the city and just generally where we kind of know that we may have some issues. So we put the speed tubes throughout the city, recorded speed data, compiled all that data, analyzed it, and what you see on this chart, which is figure 14 in your package, you'll see there are these little lines there. So there's some numbers. Everywhere you see a line is basically where we took a count, and that tells you the volume of traffic that was going through there daily, as well as the 80th percentile speed that we recorded going through those sectors. So we did that for the whole city, and we went back and we looked at speed numbers that we had in the previous study. And I think I mentioned this in a previous meeting, but really the two most interesting factors that we saw. Number one is that we did see an appreciable reduction in speed on, I believe, 18 of the 22 locations where we installed traffic calming measures. We saw a measurable reduction in speed, essentially, proving that the measures that we took have been effective. Which is good going forward because it validates, the work that was done in the past and gives us credibility moving forward. So I think that's a very important point. Another thing we looked at was crash data as well as citations. We kind of compiled all that information, but most pertinent, I think, is the crash data. We actually had crash data from the early 2000s prior to any of the traffic measures. So we compared new crash data with that old crash data and saw, significant reduction in crashes inside the city, about 50% reduction. And that you can kind of see on the bottom and the different locations where in the 2004 study, how many crashes were recorded versus now. So I think overall that this is, extremely positive in the sense that it completely validates that the measures that were put into place after the 2004 study, generally a high percentage have worked. And gives us that credibility to move forward. So what we did then was look at where did we have still some gaps in the system, and we did identify quite a few areas where we still have some speeding issues, primarily caused by cut-through traffic, folks just trying to cut through and speed through the city. So we've identified in that top table there several areas where we identify speeding issues, and where we feel that we can take some measures to improve that. Then let me flip here.
Does the are they in numerical order based on the worst? Or, okay.
No, so the figure 15 is the result of the study, showing where we have gaps in the city system and what measures we propose at this point to implement going forward. So we looked at areas where we can implement traffic circles, additional traffic circles. We found 4 areas where we can implement that. We also looked at implementing 4-way stop signs, speed tables where that might make sense, and combinations thereof with pattern crosswalks where we have pedestrians issues, particularly there around the school. So at this point, we call this a draft report because we want feedback. We're going to have another public meeting where we're going to present these findings. And there may be areas that we're still missing. I think Commissioner Suarez has a concern about 63rd Avenue. So I'll address that.
Yeah, Mayor?
Yeah.
May I?
Go ahead.
Yes.
The point is this, Mayor. 63rd Avenue and 64th are parallel. from 8th Street to Coraway. Now, 63rd Avenue has been closed for over a year, right? In
that's
8th
correct.
Street because of the new building. I think maybe 18 months. When was the last study? Because I think I have neighbors in the 63rd Avenue. They're telling me in 64 you have 5 or 6 circles. In the 63rd you only have 2.
So let me address
And they
that.
are parallels. They have similar traffic.
Yeah.
So how's the answer?
Okay, so let me address that. So the data that we got back for 63rd Avenue did not show significant speeding issues nor significant volumes as a result of the fact that we have construction there. So we do understand that there's, let's call it a gap in the study in the sense that we had construction going on there. So for 63rd Avenue in particular, it's probably not the most accurate representation of what is actually going to be going on there once the road is fully open. So we'll work with Juan, to possibly come back after construction is complete and do some new counts there to verify the findings that we have here. Because we do understand that the findings for 63rd are possibly flawed a bit because of that. So
Because
Yeah.
neighbors in 63rd Avenue, they are looking for that as soon they open the 63rd Avenue, the buildings are finished,
yeah,
the traffic will increase.
we understand.
So they think that the study maybe was done when the traffic, this avenue is closed.
It was.
Or
It absolutely
something.
was.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you can do something and review that, because that's a comparison they do.
Yeah.
6 or 5 or 6 in 64 and only 2 in 63rd.
So that's part of the iterative process to finalize the report and have a final study. That project is close to being open, so we should have that road open in the next few months, hopefully, I believe. So as soon as that happens, we'll come back out here, we'll do some counts, we'll verify those numbers, and
Thank you.
and
Thank
we'll
you.
solidify the report. One of a couple of the interesting things, going back to that, there's some pretty astounding numbers if you look at the lower left corner of the city around 22nd Street, the amount of cut-through traffic of folks that are kind of cutting off of Coral Way. There's some major volume numbers there that we saw. So a lot of it validates the feedback that we got from the community. The data validates the feedback, and we've proposed some measures for that area. So, like I said, I think at this point, we're going to schedule the next public meeting within the next couple weeks or so.
Hopefully.
And we'll get feedback from the community as to what we're proposing, good, bad, or indifferent, and then we'll go back to the drawing board and just finalize the report. So that's the plan.
Would you be in a position to set the meeting,
Yeah.
to schedule the meeting now, so that we can put together the public involvement meeting notices out,
Yes,
so that we can comply with the TPO grant program?
absolutely.
When were you looking at, Frank?
Madam Manager, it's really up to you. We can make ourselves available anytime. When's the next
see.
commission meeting?
The next commission meeting
February
is
5th.
February 5th.
So, would you like to have it before that?
We have a 7 PM special meeting for award presentations.
Yes.
So we could have it like at 5:30 if the commission agrees that that is acceptable
This is
I
for the
think-
public involvement?
for the public involvement
Or we can do it
meeting.
another day just before the meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
We could do the 5th earlier in the afternoon or late afternoon, like at 5:30. That would be an option. Or in the alternative, we can, I don't know if if you would be ready to do it next week, maybe short notice, because we have to get notices out. I don't know what the schedule for the mayor and commissioners are, because the following week, we have the possibility of the executive session, now on the 27th, 28th, and 29th. The mayor and I will be in Tallahassee. And the week after that is already the first week of February. So
Can we do it, I mean, can we do it like the 4th or the day before? Is that
It's
possible?
up to the mayor and
I
commission
mean,
calendars.
I think I'd like to do it before the next commission meeting so we can report on the feedback we got.
Now, are you saying, Madam Manager, next week is too soon for notices?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So-
because we have to get the public involvement meeting notice out to the
Okay.
county first for their approval. They have to, basically in writing approve the notice, and then we have to basically send it out for printing and distribute it to the areas in question.
Okay, then why don't we look at February 4? That way we do have
Yeah,
it
for
before
us,
the
that's the
meeting.
best day. It gives us a little time to
February
prepare.
4.
Yeah.
I mean,
It-
Monday's usually not good, so that's why I'm not
No.
saying the 3rd.
Tuesdays
It may not give us time to prepare all the notes for the 5th meeting. Because that's
Oh,
only
I see,
20,
yeah.
you understand?
Yeah.
Like, whatever feedback you get from the community, it may not give us enough time.
Okay, so then what dates are you would you like to propose? If next week is too soon, the week of the 27th is out, then what days?
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, are we voting on something on the 5th that has to do with the Calmers?
No.
No.
Then can we do the meeting on the 4th and report on it after? It doesn't have to be reported on the 5th.
I mean, I could report it just as part of the engineering just report and just. give
If you feel we can accomplish that and we're not gonna need to
We don't need
entertain
an
all
agenda item.
the comments, I mean, I'm sure that somebody will be taking notes and will bring those,
Yeah.
those comments, even if it's handwritten notes.
That would be fine with us.
Okay.
So you just report on the
We'll just report
workshop
on the
as
workshop
part of
and
your
how it
report?
went.
Believe so.
Yep.
Wait a second.
Not bringing any findings
No.
or solutions, just reporting
I don't
on
think so.
that we had the workshop on the 4th.
Frank, that's not a public meeting, is it? A public hearing?
No.
No. It's,
I'm sorry, yeah, I used the word.
Public
hearing. I
involvement
apologize.
The workshop.
Public
meeting.
involvement workshop.
It's a
The workshop.
Yep.
Like the one we,
right,
We
we
would
had
have
one.
commissioners present,
Yes.
then we would have to have a public hearing and
we
Public
did not the
hearing?
first time, no.
No.
It was a
It's
workshop.
at the-
And we were all here.
Public meeting.
Yeah, the Department
With
of,
the sunshine, but it's not a public, we don't have to.
it's a sunshine, we have to notice it, but not as a public hearing.
the same thing. If we have to notice it, that's a public hearing.
I'm just going by what we did before, so somebody tell me.
In terms of the grant and the compliance, and definitely not undermining the city attorney's legal advice, TPO is requiring the city to set forth a notice that is called a public involvement meeting notice. So we prepare that, we send it to them, and we send it to the general area, we post it in the city website.
And we don't have enough time to sunshine this by the 4th? Have we sunshined the
We
5th meeting
do,
yet?
absolutely,
Oh,
because
then-
we can create an agenda for it.
Let's just sunshine it
course.
then.
Of course, an agenda will be published in the same fashion that all the agendas
Right.
are published.
Right.
Just do it.
Mr. Attorney, is that acceptable?
As I say, if I have erred before, I have erred. But the thing is that if 2 or more commissioners are gonna meet, that should be a public hearing.
No, we're talking about sunshining the 4th meeting. As you said, but. going-
special commission.
Right, or, yeah,
Well,
whatever.
no, it's not going to be a
It's not a
special
commission
commission
meeting.
meeting,
I
no.
understand it, but if we're going to have 2 or more commissioners.
Right, we're advertisers, just, we
and
can advertise
I
it.
have not mentioned that before, I have erred.
Public
But the
meeting.
thing is that if we have 2 or more commissioners, we have to advertise.
So we advertise it
Yes. And that's it.
as
That's it.
not a public hearing, not a commission meeting, a
Whatever
public
you-
involvement.
Whatever you want to decide.
Okay, as long
for
as it's
whenever.
advertised, we are,
With public involvement, if you want to do it, but if they say 2 more commissioners are going to be present, it has to be advertised.
then it's advertised as a public involvement workshop. So we are sticking with February 4.
At what time, Madam Mayor?
As, so that our residents can get home from work, maybe 6? What time was the last one? Do you remember? We had
think it
a
was
6
very-
PM.
Yeah.
we had a nice showing last time. 6 works. Does anyone like to recommend a different time? Does 6 work for all of you?
I can't be here, but I think that's a good time and date, so.
Frank, does 6 work for you?
That's fine.
Madam Manager?
Yes, ma'am.
February 4, 6 p.m.? Mr. Benna, is that okay?
At the commission chambers.
It should
The
be,
place.
yes, it's
Yes,
ready by
okay.
then. No, we had it down here.
Here,
Right.
by
Why would-
February 4th,
Yes.
will the commission will be ready?
It'll be ready.
But we had the last one here.
So would
Yes.
you like to hold it here? Okay.
We had it here,
Yes.
did we have it here because the chamber wasn't closed? No, we
No.
just had it down here.
Right.
So what's the preference?
And we had expectations of a large attendance, and there were, that's,
Is
it was
upsta-
like,
is
it's an
upstairs-
informal meeting. It really is an informal.
I think here is better.
I
Here's
think so
better?
too.
Mr. Penna, do you agree down here? Okay.
We did it last
Madam,
time here.
Madam Manager, down here is fine with you?
Yes, ma'am.
We did it
So,
last time here.
we did. So February 4th, 6 PM here.
Community Center,
Yes.
noted.
That's on a Tuesday, right?
That is a Tuesday, yes. Okay. Anything else for Mr. Alonso? No?
One last thing I'd like to add, bringing back the infamous ILA.
Do we have to bring?
Well, just I think
you really
that
do we
just
have to open up that?
we don't need to talk about that. I just want to mention
Please, thank
that
you.
that this report, per the ILA, with this report, this serves as a foundation for us to move forward if we chose to with some of these traffic calmers without having to go get county approval. So
That's
this is in action.
Very good news.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
just want to put that out there. All right, guys.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk,
Thank you,
when,
sir.
when you're
Madam
ready,
Mayor.
next item.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Attorney.
In deference of, that we have an attorney present, and this was inserted late in the agenda. However, it was inserted late because that particular issue was postponed one time before because of, we had suspended the commission meeting. We have in the agenda an item of mitigation of a code enforcement, survey of code enforcement, and the attorney is present. So I would request the mayor calls that item in deference of the attorney.
11H? Is
Yes.
that
Yes.
11H? Let's take
Yes.
11H out of order, Madam Clerk.
Okay.
Mitigation.
Item 11H, this is a resolution of the Mayor and City Commission of the City of West Miami authorizing the city manager to accept a mitigation offer in the amount of blank from Kashugi LLC on code enforcement lien for code violations at the property located at 6360 Southwest 16 Terrace, West Miami, Florida, providing that if payment in full is not paid in blank days, then the amount owed shall revert to the original amount, providing for effective date.
I'm Richard Corman. I'm an attorney here on behalf of the corporate owner of the property. The property has since been sold. The violations occurred without the knowledge of the property owner, who does not live in Florida. The tenant was doing things of a commercial nature. There were things parked all over the place. There were storage things that weren't allowed. And any notices that were sent apparently were sent to the tenant, and the tenant just put them in the circular trash can. I know that's not the best excuse in the world for my client, but I would like to mitigate the fine. The total amount was escrowed at the closing of the sale of the property. I'm proposing that 10% of those funds be sent to the city immediately, and the remainder sent to my client.
Mr. Attorney, with all due respect, we prefer to stay away from percentages. We will take a recommendation from staff as to what would cover our costs.
Well, that's
And-
fine. That's
Perfect.
fine.
And then we'll hear, Mr. Penna, do you have anything to add to this item? Okay. Madam Manager?
That I have been advised by Mr. Martin that all of the complaints, all of the violations have been taken care of even prior to the sale. So the purchase done in good conscience, and he attempted to pay us immediately. The gentleman contacted me several times in order to pay, however, it's not within my purview to mitigate anything. So this is why
Okay. Madam Manager?
Yes,
Do you have
ma'am.
a recommendation as to what would cover the cost to the
I
city
do.
on this
I
file?
do, and I did check with, during a conversation between the city attorney and our code enforcement officer, I asked whether there were any structural liens or anything like building without permits, and I learned at that meeting that most of it was easement nuisances and pretty much yard upkeep. So based on the time that the file has been open, the inspections and the clerk's time and the notices and everything, I think $2,500.
And the attorney.
And the attorney's time involved here, I think $2,500 would cover the administrative time.
And it is, again, completely up to code, everything's been taken care of and cleared. Yes,
I am
Mr. Penna?
advised by Mr. Garcia, yes.
What is the original fine?
It's a total of $18,733.50 with liens and penalties.
Penalties and recording fees.
Right, that has accrued over the overtime.
So how long was it?
This notice was posted on October 20th, 2015. So it's been,
2015?
yes, almost.
So 5 years?
Almost 5 years. 4 years and counting.
5 years.
Mhm.
So what happened within those 5 years that the property owner would not be able to address this issue?
The property owner wasn't aware that there was an issue.
But it's his responsibility. He
Yes,
owns the
it is.
property.
I know it's his responsibility. He doesn't employ a property manager. He just buys the property. As long as the tenant is paying the rent, he just doesn't check.
Commissioner.
Well, you know what happens when that happens, right?
Yes.
The quality of life of the residents adjacent to that property suffer, and the whole neighborhood suffers
Mr.
for it.
Commissioner, let me, if I may interject, these are the new purchaser. They had no idea that this existed before. So the fine and
Well, there's a saying, what is it called, caveat emptor?
It's
You
up to
know,
you. I just wanted to
when
explain it
that
to-
is
for the
his
record.
responsibility too, to make sure that he knows what he's buying, and that, there should have been some kind of agreement, he owes $18,000 and that we're gonna mitigate it to $2,500?
It's up to you.
I don't think that's right.
I have a question. The new owners, will they be residing at the home, or is this going to be a rental? Or do you know?
I don't, it'll be principal residence.
Wonderful. Okay, I have a recommendation from staff. Are there any other questions for the manager or
There's an objection by
counsel?
Commissioner.
I'm going there. Okay, Commissioner, we're going to have to take a vote or come to a consensus on this if there's no other questions. Can I hear anything else from the table?
I have a
We have a
question.
recommendation from staff, and
The
Commissioner
total-
Blanes has a
total
question.
recommendation from the staff, Yolanda, is,
$2,500.
and the problem was that all the correspondence was directed to the Miami, it was Miami address.
Yes.
They
The
never
Miami
sent it,
address Only went to the Miami address.
they never sent to
They
the,
never sent anything to the registered agent of the LLC or to the owner in Puerto Rico.
The notices
Everything
were
went-
sent out to Beatrice Royo at 6360 Southwest 16
That's the address
Terrace.
of the property.
Correct.
The address that is in
Which is
record.
what,
That's what's on the county record.
Yeah.
right, that's what's on the county record. I don't know if this property was homesteaded or not. We would have to go back and find out
and
with
my-
the property appraiser's
my,
office.
my next question is the code enforcement officer, he investigated that the correspondence was sent to West Miami and never was sent to the address out of town.
That he has to send the notice based on what the county records
In the
say.
record, that's my point.
Yes, sir.
It is sent to the record.
Yes, sir,
And the person was living out of here,
correct.
so the record address was all, or was, and you recommend $2,500.
$2,500 because there is a new person that has purchased the property that is really not responsible for the violations. The violations were cleared.
That is the recommendation from the staff.
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to approve that.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
That fully covers the cost, fully?
Administrative costs, yes.
Second.
Madam Clerk, call the
Yes,
vote,
on the
please.
motion, Commissioner Blanca, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanes?
No.
Commissioner Diaz-Padrón?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Suarez?
Yes.
And Madam Clerk, I'm sorry, but we did not put in a time certain for this to be paid. Do we need to do
Yes.
that
Yes.
before?
I
As soon
heard
as you
like
get-
as soon as possible, immediately.
Okay,
Yes,
for
yeah,
the
money-
record.
The money is, it's sitting there in escrow at the title company. You'll have the money before the end of the
I just
week.
want to make sure that we had that on the record.
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to, if I may, proffer or recommend that we put a time certain, 10 working days from today. That is consistent, not in time, but with the resolutions that you have approved in the past.
10 working days.
10 working days.
And with
Madam
that,
Mayor, how
with
do
that
you
said,
vote?
yes, my vote is yes.
So 4-1, item passes.
Thank you.
You know, if the fine is not paid with the term, that would be revert to the
It
original
reverts to
amount.
the 18,723,
You know that.
yes, sir.
Very well.
I spoke to, just for information on transport, I spoke to the escrow agent. He said that as soon as you deliver
The resolution.
forward the money.
Lo dije yo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Clerk, whenever you're ready, next item, please.
Next item is item 11E. This is a report by the Office of the Chief of Police, City Manager, regarding opportunity to renew the agreement between the City of West Miami and Vera Mobility. Reference Fourth Amendment to the Red Light Camera Program. Chief of Police, City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'd like to call, if you may, call upon our Chief of Police, who's been sitting in all of our negotiations in terms of the Fourth Amendment to the Red Light Camera Program. We have an opportunity to basically pull out early of our agreement with Vera Mobility that used to be known as ATS, and in consideration for that, there are certain advantages that the city may be able to benefit from. And so I'd like the chief to go over them. And it's important for me to also highlight that Orlando Torres, representing Vera Mobility, is in the audience and can come before you and answer your questions as well.
Welcome, Mr. Torres. Thank you for being here. Chief?
AKA cameraman.
Welcome again. We've been in negotiations and conversations and meetings with the commission and the mayor and Mr. Torres for several weeks, and the police department uses these cameras for criminal investigations. If there's an accident that we cannot determine who's at fault, the cameras are reviewed. If we have, for example, a robbery or burglary or something on 8th Street and the car is going eastbound, we can pull up the camera video and observe what kind of vehicle is leaving. However, that's done now by making a request. That is not an immediate thing which we could have used in the past, and I'm sure undoubtedly we will have a need to use again in the future. This new proposal by Vera will give us the ability to have instantaneous access to all of the cameras. If something happens, the dispatch, the police officers, the staff, anyone can have access and say, I want to see this video that happened 15 minutes ago or 5 minutes ago. So that's important. And I think that also things that came up in the discussion is the number of violations that are issued by Vera. Only 2%, excuse me, of those violations are City of West Miami residents. So 98%, the overwhelming majority, are people who do not live in West Miami. And we've spoken many meetings before about the traffic problems that we have by people cutting through the city and of trying to avoid traffic, because we know how traffic is. We had a presentation by the young lady earlier today. One of the main, I guess, what the police officers and police departments seek to achieve when a police officer pulls somebody over and writes them a ticket is for that person to say, I screwed up, I was speeding, I ran a red light, whatever the violation may be, and that the fine and the citation will cause them to not do that again. Well, as far as red light cameras are concerned, we are achieving a very, very, only 11% are repeat violators. And again, that 11% is primarily people that are not residents of West Miami, but it's achieving the goal. If the repeat offenders would be 50, 60, 70%, then I would say, you know, something's wrong, the program's not working. But apparently people are learning their lessons and they're saying, they got me once and they're not going to get me again. And we see that. I see that all over the county because people don't know who has a camera and who doesn't. So they're taking more precautions at all of the red lights in South Florida. It's not just the safety aspect involved, which is the primary function of this act when it was enacted by the legislature, but it's also now giving us the ability to have instantaneous access along with much higher resolution cameras, which will further aid in any potential investigations of crimes or traffic accidents, fatalities they may have in some of these intersections. Because we all know that when two people crash at an intersection, the other person had the red light, not you.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to view that video gives undisputed evidence of who was actually the offender or the violator that caused the accident. And unfortunately, some of those accidents, especially T-bone accidents at intersections, is one of the highest rates of fatalities in motor vehicle accidents. So I highly recommend that the commission approve this new contract. It's going to be a win-win for the city and for the police department as well. And if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Chief. Those statistics are very interesting.
Yes.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have a comment. I agree that the camera system is helping with the accident, is helping with the experience of the problem that happened. And second, we have to have some, because the driving with too many people out of town, too many people coming here, they don't have idea how to drive. I don't know what happened. And the people are driving without any controls. So I think the cameras give a norm, give a weight to conduct the driving in the streets. I think it's an instrument in a certain way educational because they remember.
Of course.
So it's some kind of control for the traffic. I agree with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief.
So, Chief, this is definitely the cameras are a very beneficial tool to our police department.
It's beneficial to the police department for investigative purposes, but more importantly, it's beneficial as a safety aspect when we get people to comply to stopping at red lights when they should, and hopefully avoid accidents, serious accidents, or fatalities. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions for the Chief?
I apologize. I keep walking
No.
away. I'm sorry.
Any questions, comments?
May I
Please.
ask a question? Chief, did you touch upon the savings that we were able to successfully negotiate to the city?
No, I did not. I
That's
apologize.
important.
There is a savings compared to the fee that Vera is charging now to the proposed fee in the new contract. So there will be a monetary saving for the city as well.
So we're getting more for less.
We should be, we're getting better equipment, we get to extend the contract, and we'll be saving approximately $25,000 or $28,000 a year in our monthly bill from Vera Mobility.
Correct.
Correct, Mr. Torres? Thank you. And they're looking for a 5-year agreement. I would recommend to you that we go for the Fourth Amendment agreement, that you approve it with a 3-year contract with an option to renew for an additional 2 years. That would be our recommendation, and that is acceptable to the company.
Good. I'm not fond of those longer contracts,
Yes.
so yes.
And in keeping with that.
Yes, yes.
And what we have done now recently is to take a look at our contracts and instead of holding them for a long period of time without a review process. So 3 years with an option to renew for another 2 years would be our recommendation.
And hopefully in 3 years, they'll have even better technology, and
And we can,
we can upgrade them and bend their arm a little more for better cameras yet.
Yeah.
Because technology, we all know, changes hourly, not
Yes.
even yearly anymore.
Yes.
thank you, Chief.
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Torres, would you have anything to add?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, and everyone else. No, I appreciate the opportunity to have partnered with you folks in the safety that you've been able to implement here for about 10 years now. It's 2009, if I remember, 2010. And we've been a proud sponsor for you guys and supporter of you guys. And it's been from the very beginning when I came into this job, it was about the safety. That's really what it was about. The good news is you've got good numbers to report, good results to report. And you're right, the driving, if you can alter just every one of those drivers, it makes a big difference. So we're here just to offer you improved technology, HD quality technology at a lower price, giving you more for your buck, if you will, and adding some additional tools for your police department to give them a force multiplier to protect the community. So I welcome the opportunity and hope that we can continue the great partnership we've had. We stand by your side throughout the process, whether it's locally or across the state, and we intend to do that moving forward as well. So if I can answer any questions, I'm happy to, but again, it's really thank you for the time we've been able to support you, and I look forward to doing it further. We were fine with the 3 year, 2 years. We've got to re-earn it, and I think that's fine. That's good. Good for the city as well, and there's always new technology that we bring along as we come along.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. Any questions or comments from Mr. Torres?
No, I have a comment for in this case that I have a friend was here in the city as a visitor, and he was watching TV. And he was telling me in his hotel, he was watching TV, the news, how many people run the red lights and crash, and accidents, and people dead. And he told me, even with the red light cameras, the people do not respect the lights. Imagine if we don't have any cameras. That was a Wild West.
So sadly, the statistics will show that the biggest thing that you have is people don't know where the cameras are, and they hear of a program that shuts down, and then they think they all shut down. And so unfortunately what it proves is that unless people know that they're being watched, if you will, if that's the right word, then they just go back to the old habit. So the good news is you guys have always stood your ground. Your neighbors have stood your ground. Coral Gables, Doral, Sweetwater, all of you guys have stood your ground, and it's made a difference in Dade County. My lowest rates are in Dade County, and that's where we have most of the red light camera program. So that's, again, a credit to how you folks have stood by that all the way. And again, other than that, I just hope that there's an opportunity to continue moving forward with it.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. We have a
Thank you.
recommendation from our police department to renew this contract.
I have a
I want to
resolution.
hear from staff. Do we have a recommendation
Yes.
from staff?
Yes.
I make a
we-
motion. I move
No,
to
we
approve.
have
We
a-
recommend that you approve the Fourth Amendment to the contract with those items that we have stipulated that have been negotiated. And again, this program is of great benefit to the city of West Miami citizens, the police department, and neighboring agencies as well, who sometimes will need to rely on video after, based on an ongoing investigation, and the savings that we're bringing to the table. So we recommend that you approve it this evening.
Thank you, Madam Manager.
Make a
If
mo-
there are no other questions,
This is the resolution. This is the
Yeah.
report.
Yes, we
Resolution.
need to read the resolution, Madam Mayor.
please, Madam Clerk.
May I? Item 11F, this is a resolution of the Mayor and City Commission of the City of West Miami authorizing the city manager to renew and extend that certain agreement with American Traffic Solutions, Inc., ATS, DBA Beta Mobility, originally entered into on June 11, 2009, and subsequently amended on July 9, 2010, December 5, 2012, and July 2013 to enhance the City of West Miami's red light safety program that would include taking advantage of new technology and lower costs, extend the terms and conditions of the previous contract, and amendments for 5 additional years through, is today's effective date?
Yes,
January
for a period of
15
3
to-
years.
3 years
With
with
an
the option to renew
renew.
for another 2 years, so 2025, providing for effective date.
I make a motion.
Second.
Call the vote.
Motion by Commissioner Blanca, second by Vice Mayor Suarez. On the motions, Commissioner Blanes, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanca,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Suarez,
Yes.
Commissioner Diaz-Padrón,
No.
Mayor Rodriguez.
And I vote yes.
4-1, item passes.
Mayor, I have a personal question for Mr. Orlando.
Okay. Mr. Torres?
Yes.
We have a personal question from Commissioner Suarez for you.
Yes, sir.
May I, personal question?
Let's not get too personal. I mean, let's, you know.
No, I just want to know if you preparing for the Jaime Way and Key
So,
West.
so sadly,
Are you ready for that?
sadly, as I've aged, I can't grow hair up here anymore, so I figure I got to feel manly and grow it down here. That's the only thing I can say.
I think it looks very nice.
Working a little bit more time in Georgia these days, this kind of fits in a little bit better in
I
Georgia
was-
too, so.
I was thinking you do, I go there and vote for you.
Thank you for noticing, though, I appreciate
And
that.
that is his distinguished grandfather look.
That's right.
Yeah.
I know.
That's,
That's
I
why
was
I asked him.
That's what it's all
That's what
about.
I asked him.
From my heart, thank you very much. Appreciate the partnership. Look forward to doing a lot more.
Thank you.
And again, we stand by your side throughout the process. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
I'm going to leave some, a little token of appreciation behind that. Brought with me for Red Light Cameras. No, there's no stress here, but I'm going to leave them behind anyway. So even just so I've broken 3 or 4 of them while I was waiting to come up with just some foam stress relievers. Just not that you all have stress, but.
We have no stress.
No, no.
None.
You did,
We
you can throw
don't.
them, it doesn't leave a mark on
Those are
anybody.
cute.
And,
Stress
That way you
relievers.
can, have some fun with it.
So,
Thank
so
very
you heard
much.
Mr. Torres say we have permission to throw these.
It doesn't leave a mark is what I know.
Okay,
So I'll
okay,
do that.
okay.
Thank you again, sorry.
Thank you. I understand Mr. Torres flew in just for this meeting, so thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for that.
I have to say for the record that every time I'm stressed, I go to London.
So now you have an
And then he
alternative.
passes stress on
Now
to
you have
me.
an alternative, see? Well, when you call her, tell her to take out her light so she can de-stress.
And Mary and Yolanda.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. Madam
Thank you.
Clerk,
Thank you, Orlando.
next item?
That's everything, right?
I believe that's it.
I think that the agenda has been covered in its entirety. 13, good of the order.
Anything
Yeah.
for good of the
I
order?
have something.
Okay, well, one at a time, one at a time.
Request for the proclamation.
That was
No,
approved
we
as
took that,
part
it was
of
a
the consent agenda.
item. We voted on that when we voted on the,
On the
on the
resolution
consent
with
agenda
the
items.
Coral
Okay,
Gables.
yeah, we took care of that. So I've had a couple of shout outs for good of the order. Who wants to go first?
I'll go
Go
first.
ahead.
All right, go ahead.
I was hoping that Vice Mayor Lago would stay. I want to thank him personally. And I want to thank Coral Gables Police Chief Hudak for coming here tonight. You know, the natural discourse of our history is that bad things will happen. And that is inevitable. But worse is that good men will stand by and do nothing. And tonight, with their leadership and their persistence in this endeavor, that has not happened. So thank you, Chief, for your leadership. And I thank my Chief Andreo, Deputy Chief Avila, and Captain Delgado also for their great work. I know that working together will help our community. So thank you, Chief, for being here and giving us that presentation. And give my regards to Vice Mayor Lago also.
Chief, you're welcome anytime. Your
Absolutely.
neighbors, stop by anytime.
That
you
goes
like.
without saying, Chief.
Yeah.
You're more than welcome, more than welcome.
And Mayor, I think we should congratulate the chief and send our best wishes to his wife Alina Hudak, who has been selected as the assistant city manager for the city of Miami Beach.
Oh, great news. Great news.
Assistant city manager.
You can clap for me because I got it back.
Thank you, Commissioner, for that.
Was you adjourned?
Any other commissioner that would like to
Anything else
speak
for
on
the
the good of the order?
Yeah, I have something good of the order.
Okay, we have one more item.
Okay.
Good of the order.
Now, a week ago, or 10 days ago, an email was sent to all of us about the Commission of Ethics, the Clean Campaign class. I think they know that we have a chamber, and to be held in the chamber upstairs. But then, if you see the invitation, it's not only for West Miami, it's for all the cities in the county. It's from Homestead to North Miami Beach to Hialeah, all the cities are invited for this. I suggest we do this in the multipurpose Rebecca Sosa. It's a county place. It's larger than our chamber, better facilities, better parking, and I think we'll be more comfortable. It may be the person from the Ethics Commission who handled these things. Maybe that person, I think Johnson sent the mail.
Robert Thompson.
Maybe he doesn't know that we have that facility there. I already checked with the Commissioner, Rebecca Sosa, if was any difficulty with her. And she said, no, of course. The Commission of Ethics is a county thing. And my suggestion to you, Mayor and Commissioners, is that event to do it there, not in our chamber. It would be much better place in the multipurpose place. That's my suggestion to all of you.
I don't think the vice mayor is wrong. You might want to check with Robert and see if they have like 3 people signed up, because then it doesn't really matter. But if they have some people signing up and they continue signing up, just see if he wants to move it, if it's possible, because it
It's
might.
because they might already advertised or invited municipalities to one location. So we have to see if they are willing to change the location at this point.
Well, emails today are instant. So if you said 62nd Avenue and 18th Avenue, 62nd Avenue and 8th Street, it's a couple of blocks away.
I understand,
I don't
Mr.
think that is
Vice
a
Mayor.
difficulty. I don't think that's a problem.
Thank you for
I
your.
think we have bathrooms, better bathrooms there, more space. We don't know, it may become 5, it may become 70 persons. We don't know, because the invitation is for the whole county, all the cities.
Thank you for.
And none of us knows how many people will come.
Thank you for your suggestion, Vice Mayor. Madam Clerk, is there any valid reason why we should not have this function in our chambers?
No.
Madam Manager,
No.
have we had this meeting in our chambers before?
Yes.
Yes.
Personally, I am very, very proud of my city hall and our home, our chamber upstairs. And my preference is to showcase our chamber to
Well, I
other
tell you, it
elected,
becomes
Vice Mayor, if I may. My preference is to showcase our chamber upstairs to other elected officials. I think our bathrooms are fine. Well, have new bathroom. We won't have new. I don't think bathrooms come into play here, but I would prefer. My preference is to have it upstairs. I do believe we'll have plenty of room. How many people does our chamber hold, Mr. Penna? 95.
Mayor, I never discuss with women. If you like the chamber, do the chamber. My question, if 70 people come, I will ask you, Mayor, what we do now? Forget it. Forget about what I suggest.
You gave yours. Now I'm saying my preference is to have it upstairs.
Finish.
Wonderful.
You want upstairs? Do upstairs.
My preference is, not saying I'm forcing it upon anyone, but that would be my preference.
I think it's time to motion to adjourn.
I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Meeting adjourned. Let me use my gavel.
Good night.
We're adjourned.